Hello everyone and welcome to the video, and today we're going to be making an updated guide on how to play Wraith in detail. So I'm going to be doing another video. My last video did very well. I think it had like 104,000 views, so it was absolutely insane. It's by far my best video right now. So I'm going to make another one since a lot of changes were made to Wraith and that guide is no longer accurate. It's outdated, so I'm just going to be redoing it with all the changes that have happened to her. So before we get into the video, I do want to say that about 90% of you guys are not subbed, so if you can drop a sub, it helps me out a ton, and I would really appreciate it. So let's get right into the video. We want to look at her kit first. So obviously she has her passive, which is Voices from the Void, where she is able to see traps, or it calls out traps, or if someone's aiming at her, and specifically if there's a sniper aiming at her. And then her L1, which is Into the Void, which is obviously she is able to phase, and that was changed recently, so it's a little bit different. You're faster in it, and the cooldown's different. Takes a little bit longer to activate as well, so it's different now. And then obviously her ultimate, which is the portal, and I think it's called Dimensional Rift. Obviously you can link two locations together. It's a portal, you guys already know this. So we're going to get into the passive first. The passive is not like it's not amazing, but it really can help you out a lot, because if someone's aiming at you, you could tell before they do it, because a lot of times, especially in higher tier ranked, people are going to do like a 3, 2, 1 thing. They do a little countdown and then they all will target you, and specifically with G7s and stuff like that, it's really bad on console, where people will they'll count down and all three of them will shoot at you and you'll be dead in seconds. And if they do that to you and your Wraith, you'll get the indication and you'll say someone's aiming at you, so you can hit down D-pad and then tell your teammates. So if you just communicate with your team while you are also, using that passive, you're going to get a lot of use out of it. The only one that's really not useful is the traps one, because they're usually going off, but by the time she actually is able to sense them, so that's a little bit pointless. But she's also able to tell that if there's a sniper in the area. So there's two different cues. It's you're being aimed at and there's a sniper. And if there's a sniper, that basically just means that they could have a Kraber or any of the weapons that take sniper ammo, such as these. So if you're being aimed at by one of these or a Kraber, you're going to get the notification that a sniper is in the area. So that's pretty much it for the passive. It's not amazing, but if you use it correctly, you could get some value out of it, especially if you can prevent being team shotted. So next up, I want to talk about her L1, and there was a lot of changes that happened to this. So for instance, you are able to move faster while inside of it. It has this little cooldown period, or whatever you want to call it, that little charge up where it takes a little bit of time before you actually go into it. And also it has a much lower cooldown now. Obviously I have gold helmet on, but I believe it's like 25 seconds without gold helmet, so the cooldown is a lot better. It was borderline a buff. A lot of people think it was a nerf, but it was almost kind of a buff, since you're able to move faster, you last longer while in the void, and the cooldown is much better. So it was kind of a buff. The only nerf really was like the L1 part, where it takes a little bit to go into, but that could be avoided by just ducking behind cover and using it like that. So you just can't really use it as a get out of jail free card anymore. So that's really not that bad, and I'll show you an example of it. So say I'm fighting this guy, I can easily dip behind cover and then now I can get out. So, and look at the time difference, the speed. You're going to be able to get away much easier and rotate as well. So sometimes you're going to be in a situation where there's really no way out, and when you are, you just want to, if you're face to face with the guy, you just want to kind of move a little bit unpredictably and then try to do it this way and get out. So that's probably the best way I could say if you have to use it in front of somebody, but for the most part you want to avoid using the L1 right in front of somebody, just because it does have that 1.5 second little delay, which you are going to want to watch out for. So the next thing I want to talk about is being stuck by an arc star. You can still avoid being stuck by an arc star. If you can see here, if that was me being stuck, you still have time. As you can tell, I was able to get in there, but you have to be a lot faster with it. So if you get stuck, you almost have to immediately change it, because otherwise you're going to take the damage. So it can be a little bit difficult, especially if you're fighting somebody, but you really only have like half a second to react. Otherwise you're going to get hit by that explosion. So I'll show you again with a little bit more delayed reactions. Obviously if this was me, he gets stuck, that is like the last second you could do it for it to be effective still. So you could still avoid arc stars, but it is a little bit difficult. You have to be very, very quick with the timing. So another thing I want to talk about with her tactical is just rotating. So obviously, you know, if you're in an open field, this is the case a lot on the World's Edge map because it can be a little bit difficult. There's a lot of open area and a lot of high ground where people abuse G7s and snipers and stuff like that. So if you have to rotate, you want to get this little technique down where you can do that, you know, that little slide, and as you can tell, I was able to cover a lot of ground. So the general technique is you want to run, press L1, slide, and then jump. And if you can get that technique down, you're going to see that even with that little delay, you're still covering a lot of ground, and it's going to be a little bit difficult to hit you. So basically, I'm just going to go over it again. You want to press L1, slide, and then jump. So I'm going to show you here. L1, slide, and jump, and then right into it. You can even throw a little bunny hop at the end, but that is basically the method of which you are going to get the most utility and the most movement while you're using your L1, so you're not entirely slowed. You move at pretty much full speed if you can get that little running start, so that's very important to do. So the L1 should be exclusively used for getaways as well. The only time you should use the L1 for a push is if you are running into a building or trying to take a high ground. It's very, very risky. It's a risky play, but it could sometimes work out. So say they have a caustic trapped up building. I'll show you guys over here. If they have a caustic trapped up building, and only if you've gotten these people weak already, if there is a knock, that's the only time you really want to push in, because you will find yourself with no way out, but you could easily phase into a building, get behind cover or something, and then have your gun out, obviously, and then you're ready. But you just need to be aware that it's very, very dangerous to use the L1 like this, since it is primarily used for a getaway. You should not use it for movement speed all that often, and you should definitely keep it just in case if you need it during a fight, which is very important. So I think that's pretty much it for the L1. I always tend to forget just a few things just because it's very difficult to go over her entire kit and how you should be using her. So if I forget anything, just comment it below and I will pin the comment that is the most helpful tip that I have found. So we talked about using the L1 aggressively. We talked about using it as a getaway. Obviously, you want to use it behind cover, and we talked about using it for rotating. There are a couple other miscellaneous uses of it, like say you're going up a zip line. I'll show you guys over here. If you were going up a zip line and you're in the storm or something, like this happens to me quite a few times, or if you're in the storm at all, generally if you're running from the storm, you can L1 while you're on a zip line, and that way if you're going up a jump tower, you will still be phased, and you will even be phased while you're flying, so you do mitigate a little bit of the storm damage, as well as with the increased movement speed, you'll be able to outrun the storm a little bit easier. That is the only time I would recommend using this ability for the movement speed, is just when you were trying to get out of the storm, or if you're obviously running for your life. That is another way of using it. So that's pretty much it for using it in the storm. The only thing I would say is just be careful if you do use it if you're running from zone, because you can find yourself in a position where you're being gate kept and you have no way of getting out or around it. So just be a little bit careful with that. So the next thing I want to talk about is the portal. Okay, so one thing to note about the portal is if you look at the percentages, you can actually tell how long the portal is going to be active for. So an example of this I'm going to show you right now is if you place the portal and you drop it, you can tell by the percentage right here, it's at 1%. If you have a gold helmet, at 49% the portal will close, and if you do not have a gold helmet, at 39% the portal will close. So you want to keep that in mind, because it's very important. If the portal is going to be closing and one of your friends is in the storm, or they need to get through it at a certain time, you can basically be able to tell them, you know, you have about 5 seconds left. If you're at like 34%, you could say you have 5 seconds left, you need to hurry, you need to get through the portal, and something like that. So just be aware of it, keep your eye on it, because it can potentially mess you up if you're not on top of it, and it can kind of screw you over if you're using it to get into the storm for whatever reason. So the next way of using the portal I want to show you is just a high ground method of using it. So if you're on the high ground and you want to push a team that's below you, this is a good method of using the portal. You just want to be a little bit careful, because when you touch the ground, it is going to stagger you a little bit. So if you land directly on a team, they're probably going to just annihilate you before you can even get the portal off, and they will chase you through it. However, if you are looking for a good push, and you don't want to give up your high ground, this is also good for Revenant as well. If you don't have a Revenant, the portal works just fine. So I'll show you here in 1 second. You use the portal, and then you jump off, obviously, and you could place it down here, and then that way, you know, you can get that easy push. You could fry somebody, go back up through it, heal, do whatever you need to do, and that way you still have your high ground, and you have a method of getting back up. So the next thing I want to talk about with the portal is rotating your entire team, and this is definitely one of the best methods of using the portal, and this is what you want to save it for. So you don't necessarily want to waste the portal, it's very important, and if you need to rotate your team out, whether it's a third party, or you need to get them across a choke point or something like that, you can easily use this combo and get it across like this, and you can rotate your entire team pretty easily, and it's very effective. The portal distance was nerfed, so it doesn't have a lot of distance, as you'll be able to tell if you're a Wraithman. You'll be able to see the difference. It's very noticeable. I'm sure you guys have seen it already, but basically for this, you just want to be able to rotate your team either past a choke point. There's many choke points on both maps, especially World's Edge. You can get caught in choke points, so if you rotate past it or rotate through it with the portal, if there's a team on the other side, you can end up saving you and your team's life, as well as rotating late game, because it can be very dangerous to rotate late game since everyone's going to be kitted and everyone is going to be looking at you with G7s and stuff like that. So you're going to want to, you know, be able to rotate your team safely from point A to point B, whether it be in the open to a building. You want to be able to get your team there safely. So rotating is a very important part about using the portal, and you want to get it down to a science, because if you can rotate your team safely, it's going to save you a lot, especially if you're using it to avoid a third party. Using it in that method, you know, if you just got done fighting and you hear somebody pulling up, you want to be very quick with it. It's important, because if you are too slow, your teammates could die. It's a dangerous play, but overall it could save you and your team's life if you just portal out into a more secure spot inside of a building and something like that. You're going to most likely save your team that way. So the next thing I want to talk about with the portal is the storm. So say this is the edge of the storm. And we're going to be moving to this loot. Say that's a teammate, a downed teammate, or say that's loot I want to get. You want to put it outside of the storm, because if you put the portal inside of the storm, it will disappear. So you're going to want to put it just on the edge of the storm, you know, loot up whatever you need to, and then go back. And this is where it's important to track, you know, the 49% or 39%, because if you or your teammates get stuck out there, they could potentially die. So using the portal to loot in the storm is very effective. Using it to, you know, revive a teammate that might be in a very, very bad spot, especially if they died in the open. So, you know, say I'm behind cover over here and my teammate's down here, and or say that's my teammate and he just went down and the enemies are over there. So we could easily make a portal play on this, where I push up to my teammate. You know, I could put him in the portal. He's not going to go through, but I put my teammate in the portal, and then that way I can get the res while my other teammate will watch the portal, because if they come through the portal, they always get lasered. So if you do the play that way, it's very effective, and you could save your teammate more often than not, because if you just leave them down there, they're going to get thirsted. So using it for a revive is actually very, very important, but not as much a revive. Instead, using it to get your teammate into a more safe and secure location so that you can actually get the revive. And that's where the portal has so much value, because you can use it in all these different ways. You just need to, you know, make mental notes of it, and you want to be aware of all the different ways that you can actually use it. Because if you can master every single method of using the portal, you're going to be a much better Wraith, and you're going to be very, very team-oriented, unlike a lot of the Wraiths that play. So another thing I want to talk about is using the portal if you are running from the storm. You can easily use the portal if you're running from the storm, if it's right at your back. You can usually outrun it and go like this, but you do want to be aware that the portal will only last for 4 seconds while in the storm. So you want to make sure that your teammates are at the other end of it, waiting for it to open, so that way you can actually get use out of it, because in 4 seconds it's going to disappear and it will be useless. So one thing to note about the storm is that both ends of the portal have to be in the storm for it to actually be removed in 4 seconds. So just be aware of that. If you put the portal on the outside of the zone and then go in, just because one end is in, it is not going to do anything. So another thing I want to talk about is resing in the storm. At certain points in the game, obviously the farther the game progresses, the more dangerous it's going to be to get a res. So obviously if, you know, your teammate goes down and you're getting the res, you're going to want to portal him to a safe location. So say this is a building and the res station is down here by this weapon rack. You're going to want to put the portal right next to the weapon rack, so that your teammate who is falling from the sky is going to be able to land directly in the portal and go right into the house and be safe. because people are going to be fiends with that. They're going to be watching the res. People ape it all the time. So you're going to want to be careful. And you could save your teammate, even if he's in the storm as well, because sometimes the storm will be ticking very hard. And you can get in there as Wraith with your L1, put the portal down, res, go back. He can go into the portal and go right through without really taking any health damage. So you just want to be aware of that. Because you could really have so much value on your teammates, especially with resing and various other things with rotating. So there is also the last one that I want to talk about. We talked about the use of the portal for getting away. We talked about the use of the portal in zone and looting and resing. And we also talked about using it to rotate. So now I want to talk about using the portal aggressively. So if you're going to be using the portal aggressively, it's important to, say the enemy is right there. We're going to portal. And the main purpose of this is just so that you have a getaway just in case things go south. So you want to put the portal, close enough to the battle, but out of sight of the enemy. So, say I shoot him, but I get beamed. I have a place to go into the portal. I can go back here. I can hit a Phoenix. And if they push, you're going to be able to hear it because there's a massive sound cue that will be able to tell you that they're going through the portal. And this is a little trick that I have that really works. You want to make sure you know the front of the portal and the back of the portal. So obviously this is the front. They're going to come through it from this side. So if you go behind it like this, you're going to be able to laser them in the back and one clip them. So even though you'll be 1 HP, say you're pushing back through the portal to heal, but you hear them coming, you want to get behind the portal, drop your heal, and immediately try to beam them like this. You should be able to one clip them most of the time because they'll be standing still for a short period of time. So another miscellaneous tip for the portal is that if you are using the portal and you portal into a building, if you block the door, like if you close the door and stand in front of the door, if the portal's right here, they will not be able to get through it. So they will go all the way up and they will be taken outside of the door and they'll be stuck there. So that only works if you're blocking the door. If you just close the door, they're going to fly through the door, it's going to open and it's not going to work. But if you have the door closed and you're in front of it, blocking the door, they will not be able to go through it even though there's a portal there. So keep that in mind if you are scared that someone might chase you through the portal. You don't want to risk, fighting them or shooting them and you're inside of a building. You can just block the door and get your battery off or your Phoenix kit off. So that's pretty much it for today's video. Like I said, it's very difficult to get everything in one video. So like I said, if I forgot anything, just comment it below, and the most helpful tip that I forgot, I will pin it just to help you guys out a little bit more. But like I said, that's pretty much it for today's video. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.